Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. I, of course, am here with your daily mortgage rate update. The only place on the web that I know of that's free that you can jump on and talk about what's going on with rates and pricing each and every weekday morning. And today we're going to talk about how Powell is showing signs of cracking. We're going to talk about Trump dropping all the bombs and why the door is open for rates to improve. What we're not going to talk about is how I feel and how my chest feels, which is why I sound a little bit more of a radio voice. I don't have a Ron Siegel radio voice, but I'm a little bit better today. So anyway, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. I'm broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. Pretty soon I'll add some of the other channels to that. If you're here this morning, say good morning like my friends. Who we got on here? Randy Tinkle, giddy up, sir. Yeehaw. We got Holly Johnson. Good morning. Casey Roberts, Mark Clark, Charlie Bedita. Hope all is well in Ohio there, Mr. Bedita. Mallory Fotiades. Mallory, I saw you with the cold plunge thing. Let me know what you think about that. I hate cold water, but I hear it really does do some amazing things for you with your inflammation and things like that. Let me know what you think about your system. I saw you had a unit. Monica Dinkins and Angela Walters, good morning. So anyway, if you're here this morning, say good morning, and I appreciate you. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Don't forget to smash that like button. If you're on Facebook, maybe tag an originator friend. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe and make sure that you give us that thumbs up as well. Remember, I appreciate y'all interacting and commenting. Not only do I love to read your comments, but it also helps with engagement and with the algorithm. So make sure you do go ahead and say hello. If you'd like a quick reminder that I'm going live each morning, we send out a text message. You can use this cool QR code right here, or you can sign up at hmmr.io/reminder. That's hmmr.io/reminder. Also, go check out Grab and Go Social. If you want some help growing your online presence, your social presence, we've got an amazing program there. Got a lot of new updates coming out in the next couple of days, so go check it out. We're going to close the pre-sale soon. You get in at early pricing, go check it out. It'll cost you $7 to get started. You can see what it's all about. We're going to be closing that soon and launching it at its full price. Also, if you'd like to sign up for our free daily lock advice emails, it's ratelockadvice.com. You can sign up for our text alerts at ratetextalerts.com. They're $7 a month. And if you'd like to get more loans because you've got an awesome online presence, generate reviews, and stay in front of past clients' contacts, referral sources, and the like, check us out at originatorssuccess.com. So let's go ahead and let's jump in and let's get started, my friends. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. We'll get into the good stuff. Let's do a quick recap here of what happened yesterday. You could see down here in the corner, Presentify is not open. I'm sorry. I thought I opened that already. There we go. Okay. So if we go ahead and we take a look down here, you can see, generally at 10 a.m. and in the morning we were doing things. Bonds were much, much worse off. They were down here around 99.36 or so, 99.40 even, right? We could say. And then look at this improvement. Most lenders set pricing here. And when you have this kind of a ramp up, while you're in this window that lenders are setting pricing, you're normally not going to see them include that into the rate sheets. It's just because they don't want to have to turn around and reprice worse immediately if they see things get negative. So, you're generally not going to see that. So if we take a look at what we got going on here, right around 10 a.m., there was some really solid improvement, and we improved through the whole day. Little bit of pullback in the afternoon. It went down right before closing, but not much. Big gain on the day. That meant there were a lot of reprices better yesterday, right? So reprices better. So we did see. You try typing with them. You try writing with a mouse if you're going to make fun of me there. So we do have a lot of reprices better yesterday. If you didn't see a reprice better, though, you'll definitely see rate sheets today that are improved. And I wanted to show you guys, I want to compare this to April. I want to show you kind of what we've seen happening and where it's gone, some stuff that I've noticed this morning. So if we take a look here this morning, you're going to see that let me make this smaller again. Oops, hold on, wrong window. Come over here. All right. So if we look here, at our previous best levels. These were up at April 29th and even like April 30th, right? These were the previous best levels, April 29th, April 30th. And our worst levels were down here around May, and this was May 21st. So May 21st. So we're going to do May 21st, and this one here was like April 26th, right? So we'll use those as reference points. And let's come back here, right? It was like, yeah, 29th, 30th. So let's go ahead and come back here and take a look at April 29th to 30th. We were right down here around 6.81. And you know that, again, looking at this is Mortgage News Daily just as a reference point, and you can see that we're right back in that same realm. And you can see that pricing is almost the same as it was back here in April. And the reason that's significant is that when you look here, you could see that where we were with mortgage bond pricing, we're very close to that same level here. All right. So it is definitely a good thing. Now up here, we were better back in March. We spent quite a bit of time, and even this was equivalent to where we were at, but we were quite a bit of time here better in March. And if we go back and take a look at pricing in March, let's see if we can tick this back just a hair. There you go. So if we look back at pricing in March, you're looking at down here, about another eighth of a point better. So 6.7. So about an eighth of a point better than that. So we do have room for things to improve, and we have the momentum. Now look at the trend. I'm not going to draw a straight line. Actually, I think I could. Yeah, let me do this. All right, I'm going to grab that arrow. So looking here, you can argue it would go like this, and we're going to grab it like this. So if you take a look here, you can see that we went from this lower area, and that we've seen a steady improvement going higher, and we have not broken out of that range, and we're nowhere near to the bottom of that range. We very likely are going to see this continue to creep higher. We have room to see it creep higher. It doesn't have to break out of this range. It doesn't have to cross this line right here. We have room to see it move higher, and we have the momentum that's going on. So there's definitely some things in our favor, and I'm going to talk about that some more in a minute. And Mallory, I did read your comments. A lot of tension in your neck. When you get it, you feel the tension release. Your husband keeps it cold, typically only go up to your neck, but was overheated, so the entire plunge was very refreshing. Cool. Reprice risk on the day today is low, by the way. Not anything we really have to worry about. The 10-year Treasury yield is at 4.33. Yesterday, it did tick down. It ended right below that at 4.29. Oh, you guys aren't seeing this. Hold on a minute. Let me pull this over. Doobie-doobie-doo. Sorry, I gotta readjust this. I like to be on the screen. I want y'all to look at me. It's all about me. I'm a pretty man. I'm a pretty man. Let me get rid of this, and we'll close this up too. All right. So taking a look at what we got going on here, you can see that the 10-year Treasury yield, 4.32. It's a little bit worse, and mortgage-backed securities are down 10 basis points on the morning. But again, we saw so much improvement from yesterday. Look at this here. This is your difference here. So you're still going to see rate sheets that are much better today. Reprice risk on the day today, though, is low. The door is open for rates to move lower. We don't expect any big miracles, but we definitely have an opportunity. Let's kind of go over what's going on here. So yesterday, Powell was speaking in front of the House Financial Services Committee, and he's kind of showing signs of cracking here. This was his comment, and I think it's very telling with what's going on here. So remember, little backstory, we're starting to see some drama in the Fed. You've got Waller, you've got Mickey Bowman there, who is talking about how we should be open to seeing rate cuts in July. And I'll show you the expected what markets are stand on that in a minute. But Powell has been very clear, though. He's been really just trying to kind of hold steady this. He's been very clear that the Fed is in a restrictive policy right now, meaning they want to keep a bit of a throttle on the economy, on inflation. Now, remember, there's a lot of complaining that the Fed is not lowering the Fed funds rates which would help bring rates down, across the board, but especially for short term. And there's complaints that he's not helping government borrowing costs. He's not doing them any favors because lower rates would help as we start to borrow for this big bloated bill that's going to get done in the next few weeks, and it will get done. Trump, you can love him or hate him. By the way, who saw the F-bomb? So this is what I wanted to get into the comments. How many of you, first and foremost, saw the F-bomb in the news, right? That Trump just turned around and said, he dropped just pure dropped the F-bomb. It was actually uncensored in the Wall Street Journal. I was pretty surprised about that. The Wall Street Journal actually posted it with the full on everything about it, which was pretty surprising to me. And where this is I guess this is not, I don't know where that one is anymore. It's not necessarily on the front page, but I was looking to see, you just Trump F and it'll come up. But it was kind of funny that he did that. Now, part of me is like, hey, I use the F-bomb once in a while. I don't use it on my lives. I don't use it when I speak. I don't use it, there's a decorum, right? So I don't support it. I don't, but I will say that cursing with Gen Z has got, especially female cursing, has gotten to be much more accepted. And it's just kind of the language of the people, if you will. I don't know that I love it. I'll drop, some shits and some asses in a heartbeat, but I don't usually use the F-bomb, and I don't use the other, some of the other solid words. But that was, I was like, hey, wow, okay, and he just kind of kept going. And I don't think that, I think it just shows that he just says things off the cuff. So, I hope we don't see a habit of it, is my take on it. That's just me. So anyway, going back to what actually matters, let's go back to Powell. So yesterday in front of Congress, Powell kind of showed signs of cracking here. And this is key because right now we have market momentum that is expecting that we could see more rate cuts, and that we could see rate cuts definitely by September, possibly by July at those Fed meetings. If it turns out that inflation pressures do remain contained, and this is not going to be this week's PCE data, by the way. We get the PCE data on Friday. That is the Fed's favorite gauge of inflation. But this data is showing for May. It's still too early into the tariffs for this to be relevant. They're looking for the next one. So it'll be the CPI inflation report that comes out on July 15th. That's going to be the next one that's going to kind of come here. So if inflation pressures do remain contained, we'll get to a place where we cut rates sooner rather than later. But I wouldn't, and this is where he tries to keep the genie in the bottle, I wouldn't want to point to a particular meeting. So other Fed members are saying July. Now, there's a lot that could be going on here. Remember, Powell seems pretty level-headed, but he's still human, and his ego is still at play, and he may not want to publicly show any signs of kowtowing, even subconsciously to himself, to any signs of kowtowing to Trump. So we're hearing, Mickey Bowman and Waller talk about July. Maybe Powell is kind of speaking through them. He's not telling them what to say, but maybe, what this is showing is that maybe, although Powell won't come out and say, we could see one as soon as July, he's keeping the straight face. He's the straight man, but maybe they're the ones that are releasing that data, and they're the ones that are kind of putting it out there. Now, what do markets believe is going to happen? When we take a look here, the expectation for a July cut, it really has increased. So remember, we were up at 90% a week ago that expected that there would be no cut. That has dropped down to about 80%. So we've seen a 10% increase on a rate cut in July. Now, this is not that high yet. Next week, we're going to get the labor market data. It's going to come out on the 3rd, on Thursday this time around, because it's July 4th. And then we're going to get the CPI data on the 15th. Between now and then, that July data that comes out on the 15th, this Fed meeting is on July 30th. It's a couple weeks after that. If we see signs of labor market weakness, that would be number one. And if we see signs that inflation is not going up that much, even if it does tick up with the tariffs, that will be number two. We could see this continue to kind of go like this. And between now and that July meeting, if we do see a probability of that go higher, that's going to help mortgage rates to move lower over the next 30 days. So we could, this is, again, the Fed doesn't set mortgage rates, and they're actually short-term rates, not long-term rates, but it still does play a role. Right now, markets are expecting that we're going to see that first cut in September. And you can see that there's been a big jump there. Look at this. A week ago, it was a 36% probability there'd be no cut at all. That has fallen down to about 10%. The expectation a week ago is that it would go has gone up tremendously. A month ago, look how low it was here because they thought there'd be more here, but look at it here. A month ago, the expectation was no rate cut. That has dropped tremendously, and there's even expectation that we could see 2 cuts by September, because if they cut in July, if we see signs of continued weakness, labor market weakness, slowdown in the economy, they could expect to see another cut in September, but we'll see. It's very unlikely that we'll see 2 back-to-back cuts. What markets are currently really looking for is that September cut and then a December cut. That's what markets are currently pricing in. But if we see those cuts move earlier in the year, or we see more cuts expected, maybe we see 3 cuts like this, then that's going to help mortgage rates to improve. So we've seen mortgage rates improve about a quarter point since back in, over here at our higher levels here that we've gotten. This was back in the end of May, about a month ago, right? It's May 22nd. And we've seen that we went from over 7. Now we're back down to, just the high 6s, could get down to 6 3/4 next week. So we've got room for things to improve. That is the outlook, or that's the Fed outlook. I don't want that. The door is open for rates to move lower. Don't expect miracles. And I would continue floating. Even with today, with things kind of slowing down, I would float. Good morning, Anthony, Yasmin. Ron said, based on the barrage of insults from Trump, could you blame Powell for not being supportive of anything he does? Not at all. So, but that's why we've got to read between the lines, Ron. And maybe you won't hate Powell as much as you do, and maybe you'll come a little bit more to my side. Maybe you'll see him here. And again, this is what they're saying on this, right? We do expect inflation to move up in the summer, and if we see it not happening, we will learn from that. So he's kind of really setting the door. And today he's going to be in front of the Senate Banking Committee, and he'll be repeating a lot of the same stuff. So, in an overnight social media post, Trump said, I hope Congress really works this very dumb, hard-headed person over. Yeah, so like Ron said, who could blame him for not wanting to deal with that? Mike said his use of the F-bomb was perfectly played, and he rarely goes there. Going back to the F-bomb conversation, I agree. And that's why I said it's sparingly. It's a showstopper. Let's keep it that way. Dave said, I locked a 6.625 30-year no point high balance, 20% down. Dave, why lock though, dude? I would be floating in this market, man. I would not be locking. I think that there's, especially if it's a high balance, that means it's a big loan amount. Seeing rates improve another 1/8 of a point, seeing the rebate pricing on that, that's a big deal. I wouldn't lock. I mean, can't go wrong, but I wouldn't have locked. I just, right now, things are moving in a solid direction. We could see it here in the technicals. I showed it here. You could see it in the technicals. We could see it with the 10-year Treasury yield. Look at the 10-year Treasury yield. Let's go ahead. I'll same thing. You can see where this is moving right about there and right about, no, I can't. I hate that you can't, with this program, I can't back them up one. Oh, that deletes all of them. So, anyway, we're right about here, and we'll call it right about here is what you're supposed to do. So there's plenty of room. You could argue that it moved lower, but you can see that it definitely has, even if we just go from here to here, you can see that the 10-year yield has dropped. So, Ron said, closing on Tuesday. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Yeah. And Ron also pointed that out, and he said, got to lock everything eventually. Maybe it's closing soon. And Dave did come out and point that out. Yeah, that is. So very good. I mean, and that's, who could argue with in this market, right? That's good to see it. So, yeah, and that's, I'm just highlighting that comment where you said it's Powell's. You still think Powell's doing a horrible job? See, I don't think so. Can't blame him for being anti-Trump based on the insults. So I don't think he's doing a horrible job. It's hard to argue with the results right now. I think they're there. His switch to MBS Plus. What is MBS Plus? MBS Live, or is there something different that I don't know about? But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I've done enough talking, and y'all know what's going on. It's a good spot to be in right now. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Again, PCE data on Friday, not likely to really help things too much, but it could give us a few basis points. But the CPI kind of lets the cat out of the bag. So everyone's expecting the PCE to be pretty good. So it really, it's very rarely that we would see any surprise with the PCE after getting the CPI. They're different, but they're still similar. So, all right. Well, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. Hopefully you'll join me tomorrow. Remember, I appreciate you being here. A lot more charting options. I'll check into it. I have enough data with what I have. I don't know that I necessarily need even more charts. So I like the technicals, but I don't go nuts with the technicals. So, all right, my friends, I will catch you tomorrow, and hope you all have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.